Good morning. I'm Summer Gathercole. I'm the Managing Director of SHG Advisors. We are so excited to have all of you here today. I want to start out just by sharing a quick story. Back in 2004, which I know I am dating myself, I graduated from the Greater Leadership Washington program, which was a year-long program where just over 50 of us came together and heard from different leaders across the region around things that they were grappling with, whether it was housing, whether it was transportation, workforce, et cetera. And on our very first day, on the opening retreat, which is an overnight retreat, we weren't actually allowed to ask anyone what they did for work. Which I have to tell you, in DC, if you've lived there, you know that is a challenge, because usually the first thing that anybody says is, what do you do? So we got to know each other on a very personal level that was different than anything else I had experienced before. Our class was also very, very social. So we connected outside of the program. We stayed in touch after we graduated. So much so that a few years after we graduated, there's about 10 of us who were super, super close. And we started traveling together. So we went across the US together, we went out internationally together. And as an only child, I have to tell you that for me, it was like having the brothers and sisters I never had. We also squabbled like siblings as well. So at least that's what I thought it would feel like. But I wanted to share all of that because when we started thinking about this program and the experience that we wanted all of you to have, it was really about kind of how do we help everyone build relationships, learn from each other, really kind of lean into the work that we're all doing. And when we asked you all to register today, one of the things that we asked you was, what would make today feel like it was a good use of your time? And I have to tell you, so many of you said, interested in building relationships, interested in networking, interested in learning from each other. So we are so excited today. Welcome to Liftoff. It's going to be a really, really great day. The other thing I wanted to share, because we did use the pun liftoff, is that there's actually a lot of space-related things that have happened in the month of May. So I couldn't help but share just a couple of them. It's that, let's see, Alan Shepard became the first American in space in May of 1961. President Kennedy challenged the nation to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade in May of 1961. And then Apollo 10 launched for a lunar landing dress rehearsal in 1969. So I wanted to share all that because I think it's nice to hear that there's been a lot of liftoffs in the month of May, and here we are again doing that together. So let me quickly tell you a little bit about the agenda for today. There we go. So we're going to go over the Lift Academy, go over what you can expect to experience over the next more than a year. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of homelessness in Colorado, also share a little bit about all of you as grantees and what we've learned from you and some of those themes. You've heard us talk a little bit about the 3 pillars, so programmatic excellence, funding sustainability, intentional inputs. So we're going to spend some time digging into what are those really about. We have a panel with funders during our lunch hour, or a little bit more than an hour. Then we have some breakout sessions this afternoon, and we'll go over what those are, but it's kind of a really good balance of getting to know each other, learning from each other, and then digging into some topics pretty deeply. We'll have a quick closing from 4:30 to 5, and then for those of you who want to stick around and do some more networking from 5 to 6, you have the option to do that as well. A couple of housekeeping items. Restrooms out the back door here to the left, and then take another left. So they're very easy to get to. There's signage, so look for that too. Wi-Fi for all of you that want to log in. There's a piece of paper on every table that has the login information, so feel free to use that if you want to get on Wi-Fi. Be comfortable. Misery is optional, so if you need to get up, stand in the back of the room, walk around a little bit, do what you need to do to be comfortable. And then finally, ask questions. So in each of the folders that you all have, there is like a half sheet of paper with some QR codes. One of those QR codes is a link to ask a question online. We're going to keep an eye on that form throughout the day. If we have time at various times in the day, we'll try to answer some of those questions. If we don't have a chance to answer those questions, we'll put together like a FAQ from today, and we'll send it out to everyone over the next week or two. If you are more of a paper person, like me, because I'm very old school, and you want to just write down your question, there's little pieces of paper on your table that allow you to do that as well. And then there's a basket in the back of the room that says questions, and you can just drop it in there. And Tanya is holding that up so you can see it. All right, with no further ado, let me introduce to you Nellie Stagg, the Associate Director of the Office of Homeless Initiatives within the Division of Housing, which is housed within the Department of Local Affairs. It's very wordy, but none of us would be here today without the support of OHI. So let's give Nellie a warm welcome to say thank you.
Should I hold this one? Is that better? Or yeah? How's it sound, y'all? Good morning. I love that. It's so great to see so many familiar faces, and I've already met so many new people as well. As Summer said, my name is Nellie Stagg. I'm the Associate Office Director for the Office of Homeless Initiatives. On behalf of the Division of Housing, we are so glad that you all are here. I'm joined by several colleagues from the Division of Housing, all clustered in the back if you want to give a wave. Don't be shy. Really would love for y'all to meet your THOR program specialist in person today if you haven't done so already. We'll be here all day. And I really want to send a heartfelt thanks to Summer, the whole team at SHG Advisors. We have such a dream team working here to support y'all. We're really excited to lift off together today. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, for taking time out of your very busy schedules. I know many of you drove very far to be here. We are so grateful for that. Your compassion, your unwavering dedication to your work makes a real difference in the lives of our neighbors, and we are so grateful. The Transformational Homelessness Response Grant Program was an opportunity for all of us to dream bigger. This was a real moonshot moment for Colorado. We reimagined together what's possible, and you all stepped up. You embraced this shared mission to fundamentally transform the landscape of affordable housing and homelessness across Colorado. The Division of Housing was honored to invest over $86 million in THOR funding to 64 of your remarkable projects, supporting you in making those ambitious dreams into a reality. And this significant investment reflects our unwavering belief in your work. You all are thought leaders in this field, and we have gathered you together because we know that collectively, we truly can transform the landscape of homelessness in our state. So we're thrilled to have you here for the launch of LIFT Academy. This is a valuable opportunity for you all as our THOR grantees to connect together, to really build those relationships and further build upon the skills and knowledge that you have. They'll really help us all in doing this work together. And I also know as we gather here today, we are all aware of the evolving landscape at the national level. And while there is still so much uncertainty, one thing remains clear: our work is more important than ever. Rebecca, in just a few moments, is going to dive into the State of Homelessness report. I really encourage you all to take some time to explore that. We saw in that report in 2024, over 52,000 Coloradans required housing assistance. That is nearly 1 out of every 100 people in our state who experienced homelessness last year. The work you're doing is saving lives, it's transforming lives, it matters so deeply. So we truly believe that when we come together, we can make meaningful progress towards solving homelessness. And now more than ever, we need to collaborate. We need to build relationships. We need to lean on each other, share our expertise across agencies, communities, regions, and sectors. So thank you again so much for taking the time out of your schedules to be here. We're excited to meet you, excited to learn alongside you. Welcome to Liftoff. Thank you.
Thank you, Nellie. And thanks for integrating Moonshot in there. I love that. Okay, now we are I want to ask my team from SHG Advisors to come on up. We're going to ask every one of them to just quickly introduce themselves. To forewarn you, I asked them to share their expertise that they're bringing to this work. And I also asked them to share a weird childhood belief. So they're quite entertaining. So I'll start out just to give everyone time. So again, I'm Summer Gather-Cole, Managing Director of SHG Advisors. When I lived in the Washington, D.C. region, I started working at a nonprofit that worked mostly with low-income and homeless individuals to help prepare them for the workforce and get them into jobs. When this firm started back in 2014, we had great success and started doing a little bit of work around housing and homelessness. I took a leave of absence from consulting to lead Governor Polis's Behavioral Health Task Force, and also then served as the first Deputy Director of the Behavioral Health Administration. My weird childhood belief is that I loved watching the Muppets when I was growing up, but then I had a nightmare one night that there was a Muppet in the shower in the bathroom that I used that wanted to pull me into the shower. And I have to tell you all, for the next 7 years, I did not use that bathroom. I would traipse through my parents' bedroom every morning to use their bathroom because I was certain that there was a Muppet in the other shower. So they did. I'm thankful that they put up with that, but that was my weird childhood belief.
Hi, folks. My name is Cassie Westmoreland. My background is actually with the Office of Homeless Initiatives. I was lucky enough to work there for 5 years. So that's how many of you've probably seen emails from me if you've been in this world for more than 5 years. Before that, I came to Colorado. I was in AmeriCorps Vista, which I know there's many folks who started with that in this room, up in Greeley in Weld County, and have worked kind of up and down the Front Range of Colorado on homeless issues for about 10 years now. So really excited to be here. My weird childhood memory is also about little monsters, but kind of a fun way. I don't know if there's any 90s babies in this room, but when they taught me about the alphabet, they had these little letter people, these little inflatable like monster things that would just show up and like out of the blue kind of tell you about themselves as a letter. It was really cute. Q and U showed up together. T and C hung out with R and H, all that good stuff. But until I was like 10, I thought the alphabet was reflective of little monster creatures. But they didn't scare me, so it's maybe a little bit less traumatizing than Summer's. So thanks for being here, guys.
Friendly monsters. Hi all, Rebecca Meyer, and my background, I know many of you, is with the Metro Denver COC. So I got to spend about 15 years there as deputy director. Left and did some consulting for a couple of years in Balance of State, so had the honor of working with many of you across Colorado, and then went back to MDHI for my bonus year. So really excited to be here. This work really fills my cup, and just it's amazing to see you all. My childhood thing. So I was basically Amelia Bedelia when I was a little child. So when I got this question from Summer, I did the group text with my family and got a lot of funny little stories. But one that was a belief, my sister and I shared a room. Sometimes it had tape down the middle, sometimes it didn't. And we had a big aquarium on our dresser that my parents would fill with different fish, just like different colored ones. I don't know what they were. They were cute. We loved them. Sometimes one would go missing. We lived a few blocks away from the Mississippi River. So as a child, my dad had us really believing that he was taking them there to grow up. Fish can't grow in an aquarium. They're limited. They need to have families. So there they lived in the Mississippi River, being happy and healthy. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Yumiko Doherty. Prior to becoming a consultant with SHG, I worked at the state level, but for the Department of Human Services. And I was their director of strategic planning, worked a lot in community partnerships. And a bit after COVID hit, the governor came to our department and really challenged us to prioritize housing and homelessness. And almost all of us, all the leadership at that agency at the time said, what? We don't do housing and homelessness. That's DOLA's job. And it took us a minute to realize, of course, we do housing and homelessness, right? We were in the business of caring for people. We were human services. And we can't talk about whole person health and social determinants of health and meeting basic needs without talking about housing and homelessness. So it was actually a huge shift with that department. We really started engaging much more at the state level, thinking strategically with us, with partners at DOLA, with Medicaid, the new Behavioral Health Administration, Association, all these other entities starting coming together to say we need to think more comprehensively and more systemically about these issues. So that's how I kind of really started getting interested in this topic. And now as a consultant, I'm so happy to be here with all of you to continue some of those conversations. And so what I bring to this team is certainly not in-depth subject matter expertise. I'm more of a systems level thinker, right? How do we create coalitions? How do we engage with different partners and stakeholders? Think about messaging that brings more people into the fold, and those types of things. My childhood belief, apparently when I was a kid, I was pretty sassy. I have since grown out of that for sure, but I guess I was. And there was a time where I overheard my mother. There was this columnist, advice columnist named Miss Manners in the paper. She might still be around, I don't know, but it was definitely 80s, 90s, right? There was this Miss Manners who wrote every weekend in the paper. And my mother once threatened that if I didn't shape up, she would have to reach out to Miss Manners for advice. And so from that moment on, I was terrified anytime I acted out. I wasn't afraid of my parents or any other authority figures, but Miss Manners, like if she came after me, that would be it. So I grew up terrified of this woman columnist in the paper.
Good morning. My name is Colin Dildine. I'm super happy to be here with you today. I've spent the last 7 years working at the Colorado Department of Human Services, largely working in the project management, implementation science, and research and analysis space. So I like to do new things and then measure whether or not it's effective and really set up mechanisms for continuous process improvement. I started my career in the homelessness space as an AmeriCorps Vista at an emergency service shelter in Iowa City. And then while in grad school at DU, I worked with the Center for Housing and Homelessness Research. So research and evaluation is kind of my jam. In terms of childhood belief, I messaged my family group chat and they immediately all responded in concert. My mom's family is very Italian, and they're very proud of that heritage. But I had gotten an argument with my aunt, and I proclaimed that I was simply more Italian than the rest of them, despite there being no evidence or reason for believing that. Just spiritually, I believed that. So that's become kind of an infamous story in my family. So great to meet you all.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Dan Treglia. I am new to the Colorado homelessness world. I work at Rutgers University at their Center for State Health Policy. I'm a faculty member there, and I've also been working at University of Pennsylvania. Got my start in city government, and have been working over the last 20 years with nonprofits and in city government and with the federal government, the VA in particular, kind of focused on addressing homelessness. More and more with a focus on health and healthcare utilization, kind of across domains and geographies. But I'm excited to be here, to be a part of this, and to work with you all kind of up front and to some degree behind the scenes. I appreciate the confidence in the people that reached out to their families. I did not have that fortitude. I was scared of what they would say. But I remember being like 4 and getting into the car with my mom. And I knew who was driving that car, but I was looking out on the main road and seeing all these cars driving by, and I couldn't see the drivers in them. And I was convinced that, sure, like we drove our car, but every other car out there just drove itself to wherever it needed to go. All right.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tanya Smith Evans. Very excited to be here for the Lift Off Academy, as well as honored to meet and hopefully work with a lot of the organizations that are in this room doing such important work. What I bring to the team, I've spent about 30 years or so working with businesses and organizations on efficiencies and sustainability. And so I'll be the one focusing a lot on the funding landscape that was talked about earlier today that is in a different place than it used to be. I, again, have spent those 30 years kind of 50-50, 50% working with projects like this one and with consulting organizations. And the other half, I run an organization inside the business school, the McDonough School of Business at Georgetown University, which brings together nonprofit executives like yourselves to focus on their revenue, how to diversify it, sustain it for future success. And so that's what I hope to do here today and going forward in the program. My childhood belief is back when I grew up, you had to actually touch the TV to make it work. I grew up in the 70s and I loved LeVar Burton. That was my man, and the Reading Rainbow. And I wasn't quite sure what the Nielsen thing was, but I didn't want that show to be canceled. So everywhere I went, I used to turn on the TV and turn it to his channel in my neighborhood so that it wouldn't get canceled, because of course everybody's TV was watching it, so therefore it had to stay on because we couldn't have life without Reading Rainbow. So that was my belief.
Yes, let's give them a warm welcome. Thank you, everybody. So just to summarize our weird childhood beliefs, I want to say thanks to Rebecca's dad, because now we have a Mississippi River that's very full of fish. And actually, I researched that, and it is true. I really want to talk to Tanya's parents and her neighbors to find out what their electricity bill was like during that time, or if they secretly turned off the TV when she left for school and then turned it back on when she came back. Yumiko, I think you need to tell us at some point if you're terrorizing your own kids with mismanners. Yeah. And you're still sassy, so let's just not try to deny that. And Colin, I want to know, as a kid, did you walk around your house saying, "Ciao, sono bene, come sta?" And in full disclosure, I started taking Italian lessons in January, and I have to tell you, it's one of the most fun languages I have ever learned. Because of that, you get to make these cool hand gestures, and it makes it very, very fun. Cassie and I work a ton together. We work very alike, and we often say, "Get out of my head." Like, why are you thinking that? So it's not a surprise that she thought the alphabet was full of little monsters. I thought there was a monster in my shower. Just shows how compatible we really are. And then finally, Dan, no pressure, but since you could see into the future and envision self-driving cars, we also expect you to envision all the solutions for homelessness. So no pressure. All right, let's give them one final round of applause. Thanks, y'all. Okay, now we are going to talk a little bit about the LIFT Academy and what you can all expect. There we go. Okay, so what is the LIFT Academy? It is a 16-month-long program. It's geared towards all of us working together to address homelessness in our communities as Thor grantees. We're going to do this in a variety of different ways. So one is in-person convenings. This obviously is our first in-person convening. We will have another in-person convening in the summer of 2026, most likely in a more centralized location. We want to be respectful of the folks that live across the state. Those are the two big in-person convenings. Everything else is virtual. So we will have virtual assemblies. These will be kind of larger opportunities to learn from subject matter experts, both within Colorado and across the nation, kind of more on different components of the continuum, if you will. We will also have learning circles. These are kind of smaller, more intimate groups to dive into one topic more deeply. So as an example, rapid rehousing. You know, there are several of you who are working on rapid rehousing. That could be a group that comes together and really kind of digs deep into that in a really more, like I said, a smaller, kind of more intimate setting. So those are much more focused. And then we also have one-on-one transformational assistance. I want to point out, it's not technical assistance, because we want to be different, right? We want this to be really challenging you, all of you, to think about your work differently, your approach to your work differently. So it really is transformational assistance. And Cassie and Rebecca will be part of the group that's providing that transformational assistance. For those of you who expressed interest in it, they've already reached out to you, been in contact, asked you some questions so we can understand kind of the need. And so you'll probably be hearing about that selection here in the next couple of weeks. A couple of other things to keep in mind. Everything is optional. There's no requirement to go to all the virtual assemblies. There's no requirement to go to all the learning circles. All of it is optional. So you get to pick and choose what you want to do. But I will share with you that there is a graduation at the end. And graduation will look different depending on your level of participation. So we will be tracking that pretty closely. And then, who is this open to? All 64 Thor grantees, anyone on your team is more than welcome to participate and to attend. And then I should also share, we're also going to be working with a handful of emerging communities. So there are some communities across the state of Colorado that are just beginning to address homelessness in their communities. So we'll also be providing transformational assistance to those new communities, and they'll also be welcome to attend things like the virtual assemblies and so forth. So that's a little bit of kind of what to expect with the LIFT Academy. I think I already went through some of this. So when, now and next summer in terms of in person, we'll be starting virtual assemblies or learning circles next month. Some of you might be asking, and we've heard quite a bit of this, of, well, what's the curriculum going to be? What's that going to look like? And so we are starting to put together a schedule, but quite frankly, so much of the curriculum is driven by all of you. And so I know that as Cassie and Rebecca have been speaking to you, they're gathering information about what we need to include in the curriculum. At the end of today, we're going to ask you all to complete an evaluation. That will also inform the curriculum. And then the breakout sessions this afternoon, depending on where you all end up kind of navigating in those conversations, will also inform the curriculum. So it's not that we are disorganized per se. It's more that we want all of you to be able to inform the curriculum. So it's really driven by what you want and what you need. And so we're able to deliver on that. So we'll come out with like the kind of first curriculum couple of months here in the next couple of weeks. And we'll share that on our landing page, and we'll send out an email as well. The other thing I will share is that there will be times that our team will probably be traveling across the state. And in those, when that happens, we'll alert the grantees in that area so that if we do bring everyone from that area or region together the day before, the day after, like let's just say Ojai does a statewide tour in the summer. When we get those dates from Ojai, when we figure out like, oh, it would be really helpful for us to go to that maybe in-person convening and offer to meet with the grantees, again, either before or after that day. That's something that we'll do. So we'll make sure to reach out and give you plenty of notice as well when those opportunities happen. So we really want to build kind of that transparency, accountability, and learning. So around evaluation and reflecting, regularly looking at our impact, not just the metrics and the numbers per se, but really trying to understand how do we continue to improve and expand all of the work that you all are doing so that people's quality of life is better, right? So that's what we're all trying to get to. And so we'll be having lots of conversations around what does a meaningful evaluation look like? How do we get there? What do we need to be thinking about? Fail forward. This work is hard. And that's one of the reasons why we really are excited for all of you to build relationships with each other, lean into each other, get to know each other. Maybe today, when you have time, ask a few people what their weird childhood belief is. But with the fail forward, it's also we want to have a safe space where you can share without judgment what's happening. What did you try that didn't work? Can you talk through like, hey, we experienced this. We don't know how to get around it. What's the course correction? Being able to talk with your peers around what that looks like. And then transparency, sharing outcomes and lessons with each other, with our funders, with our clients. One of the things that we have to do is make sure that we give a quarterly report to Ojai. We'll be sharing all of the kind of evaluation results from today. When we do that, we'll share them with you too, because we want to make sure that we're being transparent and share like what we heard is going well, what we heard that we need to do better or differently. So all of those things are going to be top of mind for us. And then our website. So this is, hopefully you all have gotten a couple of emails from me, and it sends you to our landing page. We will continue to update that landing page, and the QR code will take you to that landing page that you see here. It's also in the QR code half sheet in your folders. Keep a regular eye on that, bookmark it. For example, the recording from this morning and from the funders panel will probably be on our webpage in the next week or two. We will continue as resources, we're gathering resources. We'll continue to share those on the website. So really want you to see this as a place where you can go to regularly and have the latest and greatest information. And now, celebrations. So one of the other things that we did when we asked you to register was to share with us a little bit around what is a recent celebration that you had. And I have to tell you, if I went through all the celebrations that you all listed, we'd be here for the next 3 hours and we wouldn't get to lunch. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just going to share 12 that stood out that I think is really exciting, because I want you, while we're going to dig into what are your needs, what are your challenges, how do we work on those, we also really want to make sure that we're celebrating the good work that you're doing, because it's hard and it's so easy to forget to celebrate, but it's really important. So I'm going to share a couple of just shout outs, and I'm going to do a countdown since it is the liftoff to the Lift Academy. Okay, number 12. We are seeing more interest from community partners to increase and improve coordination efforts to ensure clients are getting access to the resources they need. I loved this one because we have a breakout session this afternoon that's focused on understanding local context, right? How do you engage those community partners who are maybe a little resistant? Number 11. People are moving out of our bridge program into the rapid rehousing, and some people in rapid rehousing are getting ready to move out of the program and be sustainable all on their own, which is what we want. Number 10, the exit outcomes to permanent and stable housing from one of the family shelters went from 11% positive to 79% in 2 years. Woo-hoo! Number 9, we recently onboarded 10 clients out of transitional housing and into our tenant-based voucher program, where all of them have gained access to housing. Number 8, my organization has 0 evictions in our rapid rehousing program. Woo-woo! Yeah, you guys can celebrate too. Number 7, my program is just over 1 year old and just housed our 14th and 15th clients. Number 6, we have housed 11 individuals in Q1 of 2025 without the availability of housing vouchers. Number 5, we built and are opening a hotel that will house 55 families a night in a dignified and trauma-informed space. Yes, clap, it's okay. Number 4, we have had 65% reduction in homelessness in 2024. Really impressive, yes. Number 3, we opened our daytime navigation center. Yeah. Number 2, we're proud to share that we've supported 113 families and individuals, exceeding our initial goal. Yes. And then number 1, successfully housed 119 participants. Yes, let's celebrate. So I wanted to share all of that because, like I said, we're going to talk a lot about challenges and needs, but it's so important to celebrate and to also recognize that so much of you are doing really great positive work, and there's so much that you can learn from each other. So we're going to be doing a lot of that throughout the Lift Academy, and look forward to all of you sharing with each other. Okay, now without ado, we're going to go into the state of homelessness and also learn a little bit about who's in the room today. So I'm going to hand over to Rebecca and Cassie.
All right. So Cassie and I are going to jump in. Oh, hi. Okay. Thank you. Cassie and I are going to jump into some data, and we're going to start with the state of homelessness and then talk about some information that we've gotten from all of our Thor grantees. So we'll jump right in. First, I want to echo the excitement that Nellie shared for our first state of homelessness report statewide. So for those of you that have been around for a hot minute, you might remember the days when it was like, we have a point in time report. It's got limitations. It's it's once a year. It's by COC. They all do it differently. So now we have a report that is for the full state, that is across a full year using HMIS data. And so I really want to acknowledge Division of Housing's leadership for funding this, our COCs, and MDHI leading the charge with the other 3 COCs to put together a completely amazing report that I'm going to touch on, but that I really encourage you all to dig into. There's so much in there. So very exciting. And then I think for all of you that enter HMIS data or supervise folks and make sure that that data is good, that's where we get these wonderful data points that we can use to communicate to our community members and to advance our work. So pat yourselves on the back. We don't always get to do that. This is huge. I'm going to give just a couple of highlights from the report. First of all, and Nellie mentioned this, in 2024, 52,806 people sought out housing and services through HMIS partner agencies, an astounding number of folks. Of that, we had 82% were single adults, and then 9% families and 8% youth. When you go into the report, and we'll give you the link, I think it was on the slide, but we'll give you the link. It's cohmis.com. Anybody know? .org. Thank you. You can also get in there and divide these by COC. So more digging in to do there. Of those, 30% were chronically homeless. And just to give a little bit of context nationally, chronic homelessness has been on the rise since 2016 and is really, although all homelessness is rising, chronic homelessness has been kind of leading that. So 30% for our state, 16% newly homeless. So they're touching our system for the first time. On a brighter note, 6% were veterans, representing a 7% decrease from last year. And what we want to touch on with this is that veterans have been had a large amount of funding, and it's been sustainable funding for years. And work that we're doing, for instance, with Colorado Built for Zero, and really putting our attention to the collaboration and having the resources is what has allowed us to reduce veteran homelessness. So that is just the model that we want to look at as we're digging in. It's the collaboration and the resources that we've put towards that have allowed us to have that success. And then 53% of people, I don't think a surprise to folks in this room, reported a disabling condition. A couple, help. And then unfortunately, as we know, racial disparities persist. Something that I took from the report, and there's a direct quote in the report that I think is helpful to look at. This is across every region of our state. So it's not just a Denver issue. It's across all of the regions. And when you go on here and you can click and look at it by COC, you'll see that the percentages and numbers might change a little bit, but the result is the same. There are disparities by race across our homeless population as compared to the census. And so you'll see that orange line there is our Colorado census number, and then the blue is our HMIS number. So I think that's something that we think about, and we'll get way more into the weeds on this as we go through today and as we go through the academy. But digging into our program and local data by race and making sure that we're addressing inequities at every part of our system is just imperative. A couple of key points from the report. And as I said, there is a lot of cool stuff to dig into. I pulled these out because these are highlights from the report, and our friends at MDHI were kind enough to make a social media toolkit. So when you go in and read the report, you can grab out a couple of these key things and just blast them out to your partners, share it on social media, and that can really help with your kind of community messaging. So one, I think, kind of staggering detail is that to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, someone would need to work 2.6 full-time jobs at minimum wage. So that really, highlights our lack of affordable housing. But that 2.6 full-time jobs is a staggering number that I think we can share. I see a hand up. I think it's an average state of Colorado. If you don't mind putting that question down, I'll get you the full final answer on that one. And then for health and housing, more than half of our folks have a health condition that makes daily life difficult. And again, these two and some other points are on the social media kit, so great stuff to share out with your friends and partners. And then in the report, we have just kind of our plan of what we need to do to solve homelessness in Colorado. And this will echo a lot of what we talk about again today, the things that we need to dig into as a state, as communities in programs. So how are we accelerating affordable housing development? Strengthening our homeless prevention, so making sure that folks are not entering the system. Ensuring that emergency shelter is accessible and effective. And two things we want to touch on here, because as Cassie will note in a moment, we have a lot of emergency shelter investment through THOR. So accessible, are folks able to access your shelter, come to your door? Is it low barrier and effective? Are our shelters, are all of our programs housing focused and really laser focused on connecting folks quickly to housing and making sure they stay housed? We want to elevate lived expertise in decision making, and that's one of the key areas we're going to be digging into as a group as well. And that really means when you have a blank sheet of paper and you're setting out your strategy, you're setting out your program development, that we're thinking through each step of that. How are we compensating folks with lived expertise? Are we putting that into the budget? How are we making sure that they have decision-making capability through kind of every step of the process that we're doing? Enhancing our data-driven decision-making, and then building bridges across our systems and partners. And I think today is such a great start for that. And I will pass it to Cassie.
All right. Thank you. We have a teleprompter down here, so this is why we're staring here. Just FYI, we're not just staring at the ground. And I move when I walk, so apologies in advance to our camera. But all right, so Rebecca talked a little bit about the state of homelessness across the state. We're going to be talking about who's in the room and who's involved in this program today. So this chart shows you the allocation of THOR funding, that $86 million I think that Nellie talked about. You can see by program type where those dollars went. It kind of represents who's in the room, who's going to be involved in the LIFT Academy. We also sent out a survey. I think we got a 95%, 96% response rate, something like that. So thank you all for that data. We're going to talk about some of the things that we noticed, some of the themes. The vast majority of you want to continue your projects that you've started or expanded. Don't think that surprises any of you. I also don't think it surprises you that there's real concerns about how to do that when THOR ends, right? This is a lot of money. Whether that's financial concern or programmatic concern, there's some real tension in this space right now. There's been growth, extreme growth over the last 5 years. So really from pre-COVID to now, we see this across budgets, across staffing, across programming. And THOR is making up about 25% of our budgets. So not a majority, not a huge portion, but still a very significant portion of our resources that are about to disappear. One of the things that we've noticed in terms of the challenges that you all started to pull out for us is that staff turnover, staff burnout, staff stress continues to be an issue. So how are we thinking about our staffing, making their lives healthy and happy, as well as the folks that we're serving? One of the questions we asked is sort of, what is that frontline average salary? So we have an average of 15 to 25. dollars an hour. And these are hard jobs, right? We're asking people to do a lot for an amount that is not as competitive as the rest of Colorado. According to ZipRecruiter, average college graduates can expect to make about $71 an hour in our state. So we've got some real internal challenges of hard, yeah, some faces like, exactly, average. Correct, yes. So, so Julia's comment was, we're including Google, which yes, that is technically correct. All right, after the break, we'll, but there's some real challenges, right? It's hard work, it's really heavy work that we're all doing, and it's very constricted funding. So you've got some internal and external challenges that we're gonna need to focus on as well. That hit a pain point, I wasn't expecting that. Did I put that in there on purpose? Maybe. A lot of folks really want to continue to expand their use of data. Again, I don't think that surprises people. We've had real investment in the state and HMIS, to echo what folks have talked about. We have a really beautiful system now, so how do we use that data? When we think about lived experience coming into our staffing, we have a pretty good representation of experience of homelessness in our staffing. So that's good. And how do we continue those practices, bring folks with that lived experience into our staff levels? We have a little bit less of a good understanding of what that looks like in our boardrooms. So how are we making sure that we're intentionally bringing folks with lived experience into that decision-making space? We just went through that data very quickly, because I talk fast, sorry. But these are the kinds of things that we're incorporating into the LIFT Academy. So this feedback that you all are giving us is exactly what we're using to build the curriculum. I don't know how we're doing on time. We're good? All right, great. So we're gonna dig into the curriculum, but I think we have a 15-minute break. Was there any questions about the data? I did go through that quite quickly. Yeah. Yeah. So some are saying if there's immediate questions, things folks want to ask about. Yeah, go ahead. Yep, so the question was for the 54,000 who are seeking services in HMIS, is that an unduplicated count? Yes, yes it is, yep. Unduplicated just means we're not seeing folks if they're coming back into programs. They're only being counted once. Go ahead. Yeah, so the question, there's two numbers here. It's 52,000 individuals and 45,000 households. So as you can see, most of that's a household, most of them are single adults. We do have some families, but that's what those two numbers represent. That was the question there. Other questions? Quiet group this morning, that's okay. Maybe it's time for a coffee break. Yeah? Okay.